little bit though. Like, it's not that bad, but I need some window boxes. Once I had the windows measured, I roughly sketched out my concept. One of the windows is larger than the other two, so I'm gonna focus on making the two that match from here on out in this video, but the third window will in fact get a window box that matches too, eventually. From there, I hopped over to the slab room and picked out some local sugar maple that was dried and ready to use, and started sending these slabs through the planer to prep them to be resawed. These started out as 2-inch slabs that then naturally lost a little bit of thickness during the planing process. These are getting resawed down the middle, and each one piece is getting turned into 2 pieces that are about 3/4 inches or so. Okay, so here's where we're at. I've got my lumber here. It's all been resawed to just over a 1/2 inch thick, but I need it all to be exactly a 1/2 inch thick because it's going in the laser, and that will matter. And I also need it all to very exactly match one another, so I'm going to do this in sequence through the planer until I have a bunch of boards that all match each other and are a 1/2 inch thick. Okay. Then it was time to take my rough sketch and turn it into a digital file. To break this down a little bit more, I used a box generator to make a simple open box design to start with, and then I added drainage holes in Adobe Illustrator to what will become the bottom piece. I want to toss in a polka dotted edge pattern on this, so I'm just adding circles that are evenly spaced along the rim that are going to get a resin infill. And a little key detail here is that I'm extending the tabs on the box joints in Illustrator. You can do this a range of ways, but the way that I do it is I'm putting a sheer blue guide rectangle in along the edge of my box joints like shown, and then I'm using the white arrow tool to adjust each anchor point ever so slightly so there will be some overhang. I'll explain why I'm doing this in a little bit. For now, it was time to hop off the computer and whip out some power tools again. Nice work. So now I've got 2 test pieces that are from my actual slabs that I can use to mess with and hone in my settings on the laser cutter. I started with my best guess for laser settings to get through the slab. I'm not speeding this clip up or anything. This cut is real speed. Bam! I'm kind of floored that I got it that perfect on the first try. I might mess with the settings a little still just to see if I can speed it up, because why not? But I could probably just use that setting too. I kept everything the same and first tried just speeding the laser head up, and it didn't work. So then I tried adding a little bit more power onto it as well, which also didn't quite make it. At that point, I felt confident going forward and cutting my design with my original settings. I started with a smaller edge piece. All right, so here's the sitch. Super silly thing that I didn't think of is the heartwood is cutting differently than the not heartwood. Salvageable with a jigsaw, but I think maybe I got a little too confident with my test cut because I didn't think of that. Actually, wait, that's weird though, because my test cut was through the heartwood. I don't know. I cleaned this one out quickly with my jigsaw. Sincerely, it was really easy to do, but I definitely wanted to hop over and do some more test cuts. I started first by slowing things down a bit, which did seem to help a little bit. I think I'm just gonna crank it on the power setting, because why not? Also, it's really bright, so sunglasses are necessary at this point. Here's the resulting cut from slowing the machine down as much as I possibly could with a heightened power setting. Ready? Obviously, this wasn't it, so with that same high power setting, I systematically started speeding up the laser head to see if I could find a sweet spot in there. Oh no! Okay, so here's the thing. At this point, I was more or less flailing and just typing in random settings. This was a lot of fun, but not very effective. That was intense. I still don't think it worked. Nope. So here's my final verdict on the situation. I'm actually gonna go back to the original settings. And here's why. Even with cranking the settings, I was getting negligible. It was getting a little bit better, but it was like negligible levels of better. And the kerf of the cut was getting a little bit wider, which I don't like. So I think even with really cranked up settings, I'm gonna have to go back in and probably clean it up with the jigsaw anyway. So I might as well just go with the settings that actually were cutting it perfectly, with the exception of those spots that weren't gonna cut perfectly no matter what I did and need to be cleaned up with the jigsaw, if that makes sense. That being said, I do think I can do a double and triple pass even over the sections of the wood that are at different densities, just to see if I can get it to cut through. But like I said, if I'm gonna need to go through with the jigsaw anyway, it makes no difference. To recap the seminar, original settings, I got it right the first time. It just is gonna be a little bit, it just is gonna be that way on the heartwood sections, and that's okay. And honestly, I've never laser cut live edge slabs before. Part of why I love live edge slabs is because they have that like really rich character to them. So if I need to take a hot second to zip it away with a jigsaw, I'm okay with that. With the strategy ready to go, I got to cutting out my pieces. To make things as clean as possible, I carefully selected my slabs and positioned my design on them in a way that would minimize how much sapwood was going to need to be in the same line as the laser. After each cut, I went through and marked where the wood needed to be manually cut, and then I went in and tackled that as well. It was pretty minimal, to be honest. It was a pretty fun day watching the laser get through this half-inch maple like it was nothing. Picking the slab that's gonna be like the bottom piece is kind of painful because these are all so beautiful. And then I had all of my puzzle pieces cut and ready to go. Alright, I inspected all the pieces and I pulled out all the ones that have any gaps and cracks that need to be filled. To do this, I'm going to use Total Boat 2-to-1 medium hardener. It's my favorite for accomplishing this task. It's just the right amount of thick and it sets relatively quickly, and it's really durable, which is important because these need to be able to face the elements. Yeah, let's do it. On the underside of each crack, I put down some painter's tape so the resin won't leak out the bottom as it cures. Resin that I didn't need, and I'm just going to use that to mess with the colors to figure out what I want to fill these polka dots with. I'm pretty sure I want black and white, and I know I need it to be opaque because there's going to be dirt behind it, so if it's even a little bit transparent, it's just going to kind of look ugly. So pigment's going to be the way to go here, but oftentimes with mica powders, when you do a lot of pigment, you get this kind of like marbly texture to it, just from a high, like a high concentration of the mica in the resin, and I don't really want that. We've got like a white here that definitely has that mica texture that, I don't know, I'm not sure. And then I've got, this is a mica powder in here that again is metallic, so it's gonna have that swirly kind of mica texture. And then this is just matte black charcoal, which I tend to be partial to. I wasn't sure about the metallic white at first, but I actually thought that when paired with the flat charcoal, it made a great variation in texture. And come on, look how great this looked against that maple. I was actually really unsure about my polka dot design until this point. This never happens, but I'm kind of obsessed with how this is turning out so far. And then I let the resin sit overnight to harden up. The next day was time to pour the polka dots. I lined up my pieces in a row to make sure I had a continuous pattern from the front to the side pieces, and then put tape on the back side of the polka dots. Painter's tape makes a fantastic resin mold for relatively small pours like this. The key is to make sure that you have no gaps where the resin will escape, and to press the tape firmly into the wood with a scraper of some sort. I'm just using some scrap wood here, but you can get creative with this, I guess. I knew I wanted the charcoal and pearl pigment, so I portioned these out into my cups ahead of time. Like I mentioned previously, I don't want these to be transparent, so I'm putting a generous amount of powder into each cup. And then I mixed up a big batch of more 2-to-1 Total Boat to portion out into each cup and then pour into each dot. I quickly admired my work and then let this sit overnight to harden once again. And this is why painter's tape is the best resin mold. It's as easy as it gets. And if you can see, it really minimizes the amount of sanding that's needed. To sand this, I'm going in with a 60 grit first to eliminate the bulk of the excess resin. And then I'm switching over to 220 grit for a finishing sand. This is the process that I find works the best for resin and results in a look that I like the best. Also, at this point, I'm mainly focusing on getting a perfect sand on the sides of these that are going to be facing inwards because I'm not done with the outside quite yet. I did this on all the resin dot sections and also went in with the same process on those gaps I had filled with resin as well so that those were clean and smooth and blended. And then it was finally time to think about assembly.
So, in theory, we should all...
Because this was all laser cut, this slipped together really nicely. Like I mentioned, the exterior is going to go through the finishing sand process again anyway, so I didn't bother being clean about my glue drips at this time at all. Also, this is Titebond 3 wood glue because it's going to be outdoors, and Titebond 3 is waterproof. Michael lended me a second set of hands here too, which helped with speed and getting this clamped and whacked together tightly so it could then set.
If you remember, I cut these box joints a little bit longer than necessary because now I'm going to do the finishing sand on the outside of both window boxes, and I'm going to sand away that charred edge. So it was laser cut, but it's not gonna look stereotypically laser cut.
This went quickly and left behind more or less perfect box joints. Along the rim, there were a few spots that had been cut with the jigsaw. I sanded those so that the texture blended with that laser cut edge, and then did a little experiment. I mixed charcoal powder with Total Boat Halcyon finish and sponge brushed it onto the edge to get them to blend with the blackened laser edge.
That worked impeccably. I can't even tell where I did it. Whoa! Yeah, totally blended. Oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna do a second coat just for good measure. So why not? We're here, we're doing it. But then we can get finished in the center.
The sheer wash of charcoal color worked so well at sharpening the black edge. I went ahead and went over everything with it. And then to tackle any smudges, I just ran the sander along the front faces, which took care of it. The interior of this needs to be especially durable, so I'm going to be adding extra coats of finish to it. I went ahead and dumped my first heavy-handed coat of Halcyon on the interior at this point.
All right, what to do about the bottom? I don't know, because when I originally glued this up, the plan was to sand off all the box joints. So I wasn't careful with the wood glue drips at all because I was going to be sanding it anyway. But then I sanded just the faces, and I actually kind of like how it looks with the box joints and that little bit of texture just on the bottom. I think it's a really cool subtle detail that actually adds a lot. But the problem is there's all this glue all in it, and it's going to be pretty difficult to clean that off because, like I said, there's that texture. If I were to do this again, it's easy. Just wipe off the glue and be more careful during the glue up, but I didn't do that. So I think I'm gonna try. I'm gonna give it the old college try. And then worst case, if it all crashes and burns, I can just sand it flush and cry a little bit, but it'll be okay in the end. You know what I'm saying? It's still a hot mess. So what do we do when we don't know what to do? We procrastinate it. That's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna move on, and I'll think about it and we'll get back to it. Boop. This side is looking great.
I'm being a lot more careful with the finish on the exterior on this. Halcyon is really durable, but it does tend to show brush strokes. To combat this, I'm going to do this in a series of very thin coats.
And
And again, I cannot emphasize enough that I am more or less dumping finish into the interior of this as I go. I didn't keep track, but my best guess is that the interior has between 6 and 10 heavy coats of Halcyon. So we're going for durable here. All right, after some quiet reflection, I know what I'm gonna do with the bottoms. I'm sanding them off because even though it's a cool concept, it's just gonna be really poorly executed because I wasn't planning on doing it that way. So the glue is just a hot mess. And instead of having it be a hot mess that would have been really cool if it wasn't a hot mess, I'd rather have it just be good. I'm still a little sad about it. But here's the thing. Where they're gonna be sitting, you're not even gonna really be able to have a vantage point at the bottom. So for this particular project, this was the right call, but it's something that I can think about in the back of my mind, and I'm sure I'll have another time when I can use that look and concept. To mount this, I'm going with the French cleat. It's quick, easy, and effective, and I'm using pressure treated wood here. And then it was time to mount them onto the house. Michael! Michael! No, you can hear me. Can you come help me hang these?
No. It's too hot.
It'll take 2 seconds if we do it together. That was a good one. Woo! That was a good one too. Thank you so much for coming along with me on this build. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to leave a comment, click the like button, and subscribe so that I can see you next time. And if you would like access to the digital files that I made during this video, you can get those on makersworkshop.com. For $10 a month, you can come join the virtual Makerspace and have access unlimited to all of our digital files, in addition to a whole bunch of other features. There's new features rolling out week to week to week. At this point, Michael's been working really hard on it. So go check it out if you're interested. I think that's it. I think let's roll the finish shots, and I can't wait to see you next time.